Good morning, everyone. Welcome to the Atal workshop on Smart City Solutions for Sustainable Future. Thank you, everyone, for joining us for this 1 week workshop, 1 week FPP. Taking time out of your busy schedule. I would like to thank our HOD for supporting us, and also I request her to welcome the gathering. And I also like to thank Dr. Muralidhara sir, our Vice Principal, and also Dr. B.V. Ravishankar sir, our Principal, for supporting us. I also like to thank Atal for giving us this opportunity. I would also like to thank Mr. Arvind Kamath, Founder and Director, EMC Engineers, for agreeing to be the chief guest. We would like to start the program by welcome address by Dr. Kanmani Ma'am, the Professor and Head, Department of Electronics and Telecom. So I hand over it to Madam.
Yes, thank you, Balachandra. Good morning, everyone. Good morning, all participants of this program and all the resource persons of this program and the support from the management towards organizing this FDP. I am, as mentioned, I am Kanmani, heading the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication Engineering from 2000. From 2000, of course, there was a short gap of 5 years wherein I had gone for my PhD and I was also serving as the dean for 2 years. So that is about me, and I'm working in BMS College of Engineering, Bangalore. And it is interesting to note that this college was established in 1946, even before India got its independence. So we are a very old institution. And one interesting component about our college is that we have few departments which are aided and few departments which are self-financed. And when we have committees visiting our college, every committee that has visited our college has expressed and surprised at the cooperation, the coordination, and the working environment of the institution. There's absolutely no distinction, and none of us know from where we get our salary. And I must emphasize here that we are proud to belong to the BMS family, and our management has been so magnanimous that all of us, I mean, when I mean all, I mean everyone, right from the highest designation to the lowest. All of us have got full salary even during the pandemic, and this is something that makes us really proud and committed to our BMS group of institutions. And now coming to our department, the Telecommunication Engineering Department started in 1986 as an undergraduate program to cater to an intake of 60 students. And till today, we continue to offer the undergraduate program with 60 students only. And because of this, all our efforts, since we are a department that offers a single program, of course, our department is recognized as a PhD or research center. But apart from that, we offer only the undergraduate program. And this makes us focus all our competency towards developing and nurturing our undergraduate students. And the strength of our department is our faculty. We are 14 faculty in the department, all dedicated, committed to the department. And the proof of the contribution by our faculty is that we have, and I'm proud to say that we have close to 306 publications, a total of 360 publications from our department, a small department that offers only undergraduate program, that does not offer a PG program. And yet we have around 360 publications, out of which 95 are from the journal publications, 225 are from the international conference, and around 40 from the national conference. And this is all because of the collective contribution of the faculty and, of course, the support of infrastructure equipment from the college. And this includes and among these publications, we have close to 160 publications from our undergraduate students. So this is something that I really walk around with pride of the contributions and achievements of our department. And the most of our students, the projects that our students do, they lead to publications. They participate in contests conducted by other institutions, and they come back with the best paper award, the best project award. And every time they come back with such awards, we are proud of our student achievements, and we know this is because of contribution by our faculty with the support of our management. That is one component to show our strength. The other component is our students getting placed. The on-campus placement is close to 60%, around 70%. We have another 10% of off-campus placements. We have a student for higher studies in prestigious institutions in India and outside India, and a small number start off as entrepreneurs. So all these contribute to show that our department, the faculty are really giving their best towards our students. And our students also get qualify in the national exam gate, and they also do well, of course, in the international exam of GRE and TOEFL, and that's how they're able to get admission in premier institutions for their higher studies. And by how is it that our faculty are able to do well? It is because the faculty continuously upgrade their knowledge, and I really get surprised by to see the numbers. We have a faculty who handle all their teaching load, focus on their research, and all their available additional free time they have used towards attending faculty development programs conducted by various platforms. They also upgrade their knowledge through the various NPTEL courses, and sometimes they also serve as resource members on other FDPs. So this is how we are able to contribute. And coming to this Atal FDP on smart cities, and I must say that the college received a large number of applications. They received around 11 applications for the conduction of FDP. And since 5 FDPs can be submitted from the institution, this is one of the 5 that was selected by the college. And this FDP is selected by AICTE for conducting the program. And so this shows that the proposal was worth had a significant contribution towards the outcomes that are expected by an FDP. And my congratulations to both Rajeshwari Madam and Palachandra, my colleagues, for coming out with this wonderful proposal. And I'm really impressed by the efforts that they have put in organizing, selecting the speakers, and has taken a very good, wholesome view of the leading to further enhancement of the participants in this FDP. I welcome you all, and happy learning for 5 days. Thank you so much. All the best.
Thank you very much, ma'am, for such nice words. We will actually next move on to the brief about the workshop by Dr. Rajeshwari Hegde, ma'am, the main coordinator of the FDP.
Madam, you are not audible. No, madam, no.
Can you hear me, sir?
Now I can. Yes. Now we can. Yes.
Okay, sir. Thank you. Cities are engines of growth for the economy of every nation, including India. Nearly 31% of India's current population lives in urban areas and contributes 63% of India's GDP as per the census 2011. With increasing urbanization, urban areas are expected to house 40% of India's population and contribute 75% of India's GDP by 2030. This requires comprehensive development of physical, institutional, social, and economic infrastructure. All are important in improving the quality of life and attracting people and investors to the city, setting in motion a virtuous cycle of growth and development. Several cities are dealing with the crisis of overpopulation, causing a dearth of resources. Social and economic imbalance among citizens creates problems in a community. As technology grows, the concept of artificial intelligence and Internet of Things can be used into planning smart cities, which can gradually tackle several issues in a coexistent manner. Development of smart cities is a step in this direction. The objective is to promote cities that provide core infrastructure and give a decent quality of life to its citizens, a clean and sustainable environment through smart solutions. Basically, this FDP caters to the better understanding of topics related to the development of smart cities. This FDP will enable the faculty to use their knowledge of AI, IoT, sensors, machine learning, and electrical circuits to guide the students to develop projects towards building smart city infrastructure. Thank you, one and all. Over to Balchandra, sir.
Thank you, ma'am, for the brief about the workshop. Now I request Mr. Arvind Kamath, Founder Director EMC Engineers, to address the audience. Arvind, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Morning, sir.
Good morning to you. So today I'm going to speak on the topic how India can become artificial intelligence for power.
Sir, your voice is breaking.
Yeah, that is artificial intelligence. Smarter Dr. Amurendra today.
Arvind, sir, your voice is breaking now. It was clear before. Can you please check once?
Good morning to you. Just I will check the network. Yeah, I will try to check. I change the net. Yeah, I'm going. So let me see whether there is any change.
Now looks better, sir. Your video was also off, now it's working. Yeah, please continue, sir.
Yeah. So please let me know if there is any problem with the audio.
Now it's clear, sir.
Fine. So today's topic is going to be how India can become artificial intelligence superpower. Here, smart cities included. So in the past, Bharat was called as Vishwaguru. So past 5,000 years, India had a very good past. Bharat dominated the world. So the world power was with Bharat. or India. We had excellent knowledge of metallurgy, Viman Shastra, building technology, textile, yoga, astrology, and Ayurveda. So scientifically, we are very advanced, and we had the power in the form of soft power. However, after 750 BC, the power moved from Asia to the West. The power became more and more hard power. Hard power means how many bombs, how many guns, how much money we have. Based on that, the country will become more powerful. So in the past, when there was East India Company, they used to control the Maharajas of India. At present, we can see that whoever controls the oil will control the country. So oil is a 6 trillion economy, and those who can control oil can control the nations. But in the future, whoever is artificial intelligence superpower can control the world. So let us see more on this respect, how AI can make a country a superpower, and whether India can become a superpower and what are the constraints. That is the topic of today. I'll take approximately another 5 minutes. So, am I audible now? Any problem with the audio?
No, no issue, sir. Clear.
Okay. So, if we see the public behavior is controlled by the data aggregators. We could see during the past Article 370 demonstrations, in the past in Shaheen Bagh demonstrations, and also so-called agricultural bill protesters, all these protests were controlled by data aggregators. So the data aggregators used to decide where the mob will move, what are the toolkits that are to be used, etc. That means the data aggregators can manipulate public behavior. However, we need the data to be passed through our local servers, and the algorithms governing the servers should be local. So government is doing a lot of things in this regard. However, there is a need to provide alternate platforms for these with local algorithms for these data aggregators. That is the need of the hour. Let us see the military power, how the data aggregators can manipulate military decisions. These days, quantum computers are catching, a lot of R&D is going on, and it is said that quantum computers are 100 million times faster than the present computers, with consuming very less power and highly miniaturized. So in the future, the military wars are going to be hybrid wars, not the wars like present, because advances in quantum computing, with the click of a button, one can hack the military computers, military networks, and one can break the password through quantum computers. So in future, race for quantum computing wins the race for military supremacy. So let us see more on this for a few minutes. IBM, Google, Microsoft, etc. are heavily investing on quantum computer labs. In US, in the past years, they used to spend $1 billion USD per annum on quantum computer research, but now they have increased it 4 times. In China, there is National Lab for Quantum Infoscience, and in this, they are spending 10 billion USD per annum on quantum computer research. However, in India, we see that a lot of research is going on in quantum computers in TISL, IISc, and many universities. However, when compared to US, China, Europe, Singapore, we are not even in the 10th place. In the year 2018, for artificial intelligence, many VCs spent billions of dollars in US, and Department of Defense in US spent $6 billion on artificial intelligence. That means we need to catch up in artificial intelligence in order to become the military superpower. Otherwise, very easily our opponents can hack our military networks, financial networks, and we will be defeated in the wars or any other way. Next, we'll see the economy. Artificial intelligence will make a lot of small-scale businesses jobless. For example, when we get these Kirana shops, we used to get everything from the Kirana shops. Now we have Amazon, Flipkart, Walmarts, and so on. So because of this, Kirana shops are affected very much. So India has woken up already, and India has brought new platforms like UPI platforms, OCEN platforms, Aadhaar platform, India Stack, GST, RuPay, etc. So we are also catching up in economy. However, there is a need to implement fair business practices and laws. So this is the need of the hour, and India should move further towards this. We will also see how the industry is doing with artificial intelligence. So India was the software superpower. India was #1 in software. However, these days we need to invest more in product and R&D. For example, India failed to invest in chip manufacturing. In India, we do not have even a single chip manufacturing unit. We have not invested much in robotics, solar power, battery technology, electric vehicles. So we have to invest heavily on these big bets. Big bets means battery technology, electric vehicles, artificial intelligence, quantum computing, etc. So India's R&D budget is 0.5% of India's GDP. So India's R&D budget is 0.5% of GDP, whereas the R&D budget of China is about 2% of their GDP. India's GDP is 3 trillion USD, whereas China's GDP is 15 trillion USD. That means China is spending 20 times more on R&D than India. So finally, coming to education, whoever students we are getting out of the industry, they are very good at coding, they are very good at software. However, education, defense, and industry, that collaboration is not so much mature in India. I'm saying that colleges like BMS College and many other colleges, the students are going to the industry and getting exposed to industrial environment, R&D, etc. However, the extent to which it is taking place in US and China, to that extent, we are not doing the industry defense interfaces. That means the students should go to the defense labs, students should go to the industry and get involved in their live projects. So such things, the initiation should come more from defense and more from the industry. However, the push is there already from the colleges. I know about this. So I stress very much on this. The defense industry and academia interaction should be more in India in the coming days. So to summarize, India was very much successful in atomic energy and Department of Space. The reason being India had set up separate departments for space and atomic energy and also for defense, DRDO. I was a part of Aeronautical Development Agency, and I was part of LCA Tejas development team. So I know about this. So it was very successful. DOE, Department of Space, and DRDO are very successful. However, in quantum computing, India need to make a big bet by setting up quantum computer separate department itself under the ministry away from Delhi. Further, we are from Delhi, it is better. So India needs chip fabrications. India needs to invest heavily on R&D. And India needs to control the data aggregators. We should have our own servers and the data should pass through our own algorithms. So education and industry as well as the defense should interact with each other more tightly. And finally, regulatory authorities also. I will talk about this in my next session. How regulatory authorities, like in US, there is FCC. In Europe, there is CE. If you open any product, let us say, if you see this mouse on the back side, it is written CE, it is written FCC. But there is no authority in India which certifies Indian products for Indian market. So I'll talk about this at 11:45. So regulatory authorities similar to Department of Space model or FCC model of US should be set up. So, and there should be fair business practices, regulations and acts in India. So we need to move towards artificial intelligence supremacy, and otherwise India will lag behind. So it is the time to wake up, and this is a wake up call. Thank you.
Thank you very much, sir, for your insights. I hope India would be a superpower by 2030. That is our aim, and we are working towards it. Now, I request Dr. S. Muralidhara, sir, our beloved principal, to deliver the presidential address.
Thank you, Balchandra. Dear all, good morning. Sir, good morning, sir. First of all, I would like to welcome you online, Professor Arvind Kamath, for this 5-day workshop. So at the outset, I would like to congratulate the Department of Electronics and Telecommunication for organizing this particular FDP, that is from Atal, AICTE Training and Learning Academy, that is Smart City Solutions for Sustainable Future. And in fact, as Kanmani Madam said, few proposals had come, and we had to choose only 5 from the college to be submitted to the AICTE, and I was one of the committee members. And the committee members immediately selected this because of the title, because Smart City Solutions is the buzzword now, and in fact, many cities have started this particular solutions for the better infrastructure. And Madam, how many participants are there?
99, sir.
99.
Yeah.
What about the remaining one?
Actually,
No, sir.
150
right now,
participants are registered.
150 have registered, sir. 150 have registered.
Hope all of them are attending this.
Yes.
So it's good that the number is getting increased because of online programs. Earlier only it was restricted to about 40 or 50. Now it is going up to even 200, 300, something like that. It all depends on the title of the FDP. Well, now people are moving from rural areas to the urban for better living standards. But in the process, better living standards means what? What they don't get there. So many infrastructure and other things are available in cities, but the pressure on the urban infrastructure is gradually increasing because of this migration from rural to urban. So the authorities are finding it very difficult to sustain this, and a lot of pressure is being created, and they are actually making a lot of efforts to improve the infrastructure, and it is having some impact on the economy also. But in the final process, whatever we invest, that efficiency should be there. Because after having invested thousands of crores, if it is not used properly, then the entire thing will be a waste. So a balance between economy and the infrastructure need to be there, and its efficiency should be increased to the greatest extent. The core infrastructure, what we generally see in smart cities is water supply, electricity supply, sanitation, then solid waste management, which is very much true for Bangalore, public transport, affordable housing, robust IT connectivity, digitalization. So many things are there right now. But however, again, as I said, how good it is, and day in and day out, we see that many cyber attacks or frauds are there. So we should not lose confidence in the system. So we have to make the system more robust. In fact, the 4 pillars of smart cities are social infrastructure, physical infrastructure, institutional infrastructure, that is good governance, and economic infrastructure. So based on these 4 pillars, one has to improve the quality. And now, as you know, because of pandemic, because there was no connectivity between the people, so there was more of digitalization that was given a lot of importance, and the information that need to be communicated to patients or others was done through apps now. So there is a lot of opportunity for the students or the faculty or even the educational institutions to improve these things for better management of healthcare system in the country. So the technologies, as mentioned, artificial intelligence, IoT, etc., are doing a lot of rounds now because of their importance. And as Chief Guest said, we need to have the students working with companies who are actually connected with defense. As I said, yes, future we don't know, because now we are seeing the North India, that is the border of China and India. Again, there is standoff. So likewise, we don't know in future how many such problems will get created. So we need to prepare ourselves to stand against them and face them. So for that, we need to have a robust system. So on this occasion, I thank the organizers for giving me the opportunity to share whatever I know. Okay, and I'm sure that the next 5 days is going to be very useful for all the participants to get to know about more of smart cities, wherein the use of artificial intelligence and many other things, the latest technology. So I wish all the participants all the best, and wish them a happy learning. Thank you very much for providing me the opportunity. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Thank you very much for your kind words. So before we begin our first session, I would like to thank AICTE for such a wonderful initiative where all faculties get to learn, especially in the thrust areas, whatever AICTE has emphasis on. So we faculty have to be on toes all the time, and this is a great opportunity. I would like to also thank BMS management, our principal, our vice principal, for always patting on our backs and supporting us. Also like to thank all the staff of electronics and telecommunication department. And first and foremost, we need to have eminent speakers for such a great workshop to be successful. So I would like to thank all the speakers for wholeheartedly accepting our invitation to deliver talks on such technologies. So we are very sure this workshop would help you in understanding the latest technologies being applied in building smart cities and smart technology, smart homes everywhere. So with all these AI, data science, and IoT taking the world into a very small, making the world into a very small place. So this was the apt topic for us to choose, I guess. And I would like to thank everyone, all the faculty, to take time out of their busy schedule and attend the workshop. I wish everybody is happy at the end attending this workshop. Thank you for joining us. We'll be starting the next session by Dr. Nagbhushan in a couple of minutes.
Thank you all.
Thank you. Thank you.